So hello, and welcome along to Susty Talk, our series of video interviews designed to keep everyone feeling connected during lockdown and beyond. I'm a bit out of the loop because I haven't recorded one of these in a while, so I'm great to be back and talking to PepsiCo's Chief Sustainability Officer today. Jim, how are you doing?
Doing great, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
No, and
Welcome
thank you.
back, I guess.
And thank you for taking the time so close to Thanksgiving. Whereabouts are you dialing from?
Oh, my pleasure. I'm relatively close to Chicago, where I have family, but like you might as well be anywhere.
Right, yeah, remote working is the way to go at the moment. And I know this is your first interview with Edie, so for the benefit of myself and for people watching this, would you mind giving us a bit of a brief overview of your career and how you came to take up the CSO role earlier this year?
No, happy to, happy to. Um, I've been with PepsiCo about 4 years, a little over at this point. And before stepping into the CSO role, I'd served as the executive vice president for SodaStream and Beyond the Bottle, which is our business about providing consumers beverages free from single-use plastic. I still oversee that. And before that, I was the chief strategy officer for the company and had responsibility for some venturing activities and so on. So I'm coming into this role with a lot of heart for PepsiCo's sustainability efforts, especially, but certainly not exclusively, around reducing plastic waste and making sure consumers have choices to consume beverages free from single-use packaging. I'm not a long-term, deep environmental scientist. I'm a business leader with a passion for sustainability. And so the perspective I bring and really I think why I'm in the job and what I think that I can contribute is, how do we really embed sustainability deep into the heart of the business and the business strategy and really use that as a way to unlock value? As a company, we're trying to be faster, stronger, better, and really more resilient. And this is, to me, a great opportunity to be able to do that and build a better future for people, for the planet. And PepsiCo is a huge company, and that scale is really allows us to be a real force for good. So that's what I'm really excited about. Before that, I spent some time at Royal Philips in Amsterdam, where I also had responsibility for sustainability, Sears, and then the Boston Consulting Group, a company I worked with for more than 25 years. And I've lived and worked all over the world. So sort of a varied background that's got me here, but I think, one that I'm really excited about the role and I think bring sort of that pragmatic business sense to it, I hope.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned plastics quite a few times, but obviously this year has just felt like 10 years in one. So even since August, when you took the role, feels like it's been a long time. So what have been your priorities in these recent months?
You're right, plastics, but we have a very broad agenda, which we can get into if you'd like. The last couple of months, let me tell you, I have been busy. And it's really started with listening and learning. PepsiCo has a great deal of expertise across a whole wide variety of topics in our ecosystem. The company's been on a journey around sustainability for probably 15 years. And we work with an incredible set of partners who also have very deep expertise. So honestly, I've been soaking up as much as I can and have learned a lot and also been really energized by the passion that people have. And what I've really been looking for are those places where can we accelerate? Where are there places end to end where, because we do a couple of things. We grow crops, we make products, and then we inspire change through our brands. And if you sort of think of that, it's really where are there opportunities to be able to drive systemic change to help what we say build a more sustainable and regenerative food system. That's really sort of the purpose behind our sustainability agenda. And all the things that you mentioned have really just made it even more urgent, whether it's climate change or all the plastic packaging that all of us are using with takeaway food or anything else. These challenges take a lot of action at scale. And so I've really been trying to to absorb as much and then really help to plant that agenda and to, most importantly, to mobilize to action.
Mm-hmm. And a big part of that acceleration and embedding that we covered recently was the company's first green bond, which was priced last year, and the annual progress report was just out. So what has that progress been like for you behind the scenes as CSO? What was the process for raising the funds and allocating them?
Yeah, the green bond was part of all the things we've been doing. It preceded COVID by a bit, and certainly we've put out a green bond report and a prospectus, which I can certainly get you the link on after this and make available to your listeners, because there's quite a bit there. Because one of the things that a green bond does is it really ups your game on transparency and reporting. Behind the scenes, I mean, as you said, October 2019, so a little over a year ago, it was $1 billion, and it was really to fund a key set of initiatives to advance our agenda across packaging, water, and then more broadly, decarbonization. And those are priority areas where we think we can really have the most impact. And that's really one of the things we really focus on, is where can a company like PepsiCo have a big impact? So to date, we've allocated about $447 million of those proceeds to green projects. And, we were one of the first companies in the food and beverage industry to issue a green bond, and we were really pleased with the reception. It's one of those things you go out and you're not exactly sure what's going to happen, but the reception was tremendous, and it's really exciting to see the impact that sustainable financing can have. And we're really focused now on how do we use those proceeds to support initiatives to accelerate our progress, while at the same time addressing these big global challenges. Emissions, water use, and plastics are really the three areas that we focused on the most.
Mm-hmm. And something about the allocation that I was reading, something that covers all three of those topics, was this new green R&D facility. And I think that R&D is something that a lot of governments and a lot of companies are going to be looking at as part of their recovery efforts. But what has it been like trying to deliver that upgrade at this moment in time?
Well, it's it's like everything. Things are just a little bit harder. But the good news is the blueprint for the R&D facility, which is a significant expansion of a existing facility we had in Valhalla, New York. It started almost a decade ago, so it well before the pandemic. The construction, which had already started, was slowed by probably 10 weeks or so. Because we wanted to make sure that we were following all the very best COVID protocols for our employees and also for all the people that were constructing and building the facility. I mean, that is job one, no question. We still expect to complete it all by end of year, so it's slowed it down, but certainly has not stopped progress by any stretch. And the proceeds from the bond were an important part of it, because they helped transform the facility so that we can incorporate green design, we can incorporate a number of innovative things into it, because that's really how you reflect your commitment to a sustainable future for the company, but also for the community. And this is an important part of the community that it's in. And as you said, R&D has a multiplier impact and will affect many communities. When it's completed, we expect it to receive LEED Gold certification. So it's, elements reduce energy consumption, we're going to generate renewable, and I can talk about that in a second, but then also just use everything more sustainably. We've got things like a stormwater control mechanism, which has the ability to collect up to 300,000 gallons of parking lot runoff, which we then return to the natural aquifer rather than, dumping it into the city storm system. We've got rainwater harvesting, where we can collect up to 80,000 gallons for irrigation. So we're not using potable water to deal with landscape and other vegetation. And the facility has 681 solar panels with along with a number of other features to improve energy, water efficiency, and also, importantly, create an inspiring space for our associates to come and work in a place they can feel proud about, and a place that they know that it's actually contributing positively to the planet. We're planning a deeper dive into some of the features, and we'll share more on that, with you and your listeners and others soon. But you're right; it is a really, really exciting project.
Mm-hmm. Well, best of luck with that. And I wanted to come back to something you said earlier. I think you mentioned that PepsiCo is one of the big, one of the earliest big businesses, in the food bev sector to look into green bonds. But it is a word that I've had come into my email inbox more and more this year. So more broadly, are you seeing a trend towards bonds in your sector and beyond?
I think that there's a lot of interest. I was in a session the other day, and they were talking about green bonds and blue bonds for water and ocean and others. So I think the whole area of sustainable investing continues to accelerate. I mean, from our perspective, issuing a green bond was one way to demonstrate commitment to addressing the challenges that that we're all facing, and to use that money again to accelerate. That's a word I've used a lot. To us, we know what a lot of these things are that we want to do and that need to be done. And again, we work with a lot of partners and a lot of organizations to make sure we're doing science-based targets aligned at the right things. But it's always about acceleration. We look and say, how can we do more? How can we do more faster? And this helps with that. And as I mentioned, with this comes as well something that I think some companies find challenging, but I would submit it's actually very positive, which is the responsibility and the requirement to report transparently in a way that overlays the financial information with the sustainability impact, and bringing those together. And for us, data integrity is absolutely at the heart of our ESG reporting, because that's how you build trust. It's about having the right information and being super transparent with it. And that's how you build trust between, in our case, PepsiCo and our stakeholders, which are many and varied. The data, the sustainability performance data, real live, what's actually happening, we collect across our global operations and parts of our supply chain. And we report in alignment to the Global Reporting Initiative, the Carbon Disclosure Project, and a number of very topic-specific reports, which you've reported on in the past. This year, we issued our first task force on climate-related financial disclosure report. So, if you're going to do this, you really have to be comfortable with a lot of disclosure. But we think it's actually made us better. And another thing I would say with that is, if you're going to be successful in ESG reporting, you got to have great governance, and it really has to be robust. For us, our structure underpins each of our sustainability goals, because what we need to make sure we're providing is accurate, consistent, and precise data. And that's got to be something that is what we report outside. But to do that, we've got to have really strong accountability inside. And so, we link all that, and that's, a big part of what one of my groups does is really the sole source of truth for a lot of that data in a clean, coherent, robust kind of way. So, yeah, it's, we think there's a lot of interest. Certainly that's what we hear. I think there will be more over time. And, with it comes some responsibility, which, for a company like us, we're happy to take on. I mean, if you're going to be a leader, you gotta, with that goes some responsibility, which we're fine on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask what sort of learnings you'd give to other organisations that were looking at bonds, but it sounds like being willing to report and to disclose and to perhaps change governance are some big tips. But do you have any other advice on that?
That's certainly a big set of things. It's an area. I met yesterday with our the sustainability committee of the board, and this is one of the things that they wanted to talk about. And I meet with them every. And that's something where we're always engaging with them on. So I think, but by doing that, it actually makes you a better company, by needing to report, you actually have to determine what is it that really matters, how am I going to measure it, and then how am I going to capture that data in a way that is manageable for the organization, because we don't want to build a bureaucracy that just collects data. We want to do it in the leanest possible way that gets the right data. And then how do you make sure that that data is, timely, accurate, and that you can report it out? But by doing that, it actually helps you build capability and muscle internally. And that's actually good. And it broadens the number of people in the organization who think of sustainability on a daily basis. Because one of the things that I really reject is that sustainability is over here and the business is over here. No, we've got one sustainability strategy. It's linked to our business strategy, and it is part of what we do every day. And it has to be, to really have the kind of impact that, as a company as big as we are and as we are in this area, it's got to be part of everybody's job on a daily basis. So I think that's a nice benefit, if you will. You got to have it ahead of time, but it gets reinforced by something like the need to report on a green bond or other things. So it becomes reinforcing.
Great. Well, Jim, that's all the questions we have time for, but I think that is a really great note to end on. I think 2 years ago or so, when I joined edie, the conversation about embedded sustainability, it was very much theoretical. But now I've seen more and more examples of it being put into practice. So I think that's a really positive note to end on today, Jim.
Great. Well, thank you. And thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to you and your listeners.
Anytime. Take care.
Thanks. You too, Tara.